Well, Carl Killo here. Hey, since I'm kind of on a bit of a roll tonight, I figured I'd go ahead and record while I'm in the mood. I wanted to talk a little bit about, since I had mentioned Chris Voss, Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference. And I've been digging pretty deep into that lately. And I wanted to talk a little bit about this concept of black swans. It's always been, well, let me give you a little bit of background about me. I've traded equities and futures for over a decade now, and it's very, very useful to understand exactly what a black swan is when you are dealing with volatility and a lot of people acting together in a marketplace. So, what's a black swan? Well, the concept goes something like this. Well, let me give you the historical, actual version of it, where the term came from. So there used to be this saying, I think it was something like "as common as a black swan," something along those lines, and that's because everybody thought there were no black swans. And then we made the voyage across the ocean and to Australia and found out, oh, well, look, there really are black swans. And the concept is something like it's the let's see, I think Rumsfeld talked about this. There are known you've got known knowns, which is the information that you have. Known unknowns, which is stuff you know you need to know but don't know yet. And then there are unknown unknowns, which are things you don't know what they are and you don't know when they're going to come bite you in the butt. So, unknown unknowns are black swans. And Chris Voss takes this idea to a very interesting conclusion. And Voss was a FBI negotiator, and he would talk. Well, he saved people's lives, and also get really good deals at the same time by talking terrorists out of killing people and accepting much lower ransoms than anybody ever thought would be possible, which seems extremely counterintuitive because, well, God, how could you weigh money versus someone's life? You know, you'd think that the person who is threatening someone's life has all the leverage. And that turns out not to be the case. Because the person that has the gun in the hand, so to speak, maybe literally, it knows they only have one shot at this, and if they kill their hostage, they kill their kidnapped victim, then they don't get paid. And so they have as much of an ultimatum as the people who are trying to save the poor victim's life do. So his technique, Chris Voss's technique, involves doing a lot of things called mirroring, where you really let the other side talk as much as possible. And one of the reasons for doing that is you're gathering information, and you're also developing that sense of empathy with the other side. And the empathy that you're going to generate allows the other person to come closer and closer to a "oh, that's right" moment when you just say a few key words. So it goes something like this: they tell you about their demands, and you mirror them back. And so you repeat the last few things that they say, and then you kind of phrase it as a question. For instance, he tells the story of a really demanding boss, and the boss would constantly come around this female employee's desk and just suddenly demand work. And the work would go something like this. Yes, we need two full copies of these presentations, and hard copies, and we need it by the end of the day. And the woman who was working for him was getting quite upset at the boss doing this because she knew these paper copies were just sitting around. There was no more room in the office anymore. But the boss wouldn't take any constructive criticism from his employees because he was the boss, and anything that was, if you gave him a suggestion, then he would see it as, oh well, you're just taking the lazy way. Well, that'd be his excuse. So the mirroring technique allowed the employee to tell her boss, well, not to tell her boss, but for him to come to the conclusion that he wanted, no, that she wanted him to come to by himself. Because then he would accept the change because he, quote, came up with it by himself, even though he really didn't. And so the exchange would go something like this. Here, Sheila, I'm just making up a name. Sheila, I need two of these by tomorrow morning. Oh, I'm sorry, two of these? Yes, that's right, two of these, and tomorrow morning. Oh, I'm sorry. Did the client ask for a copy? Yes. Well, no. Actually, the client didn't ask for a copy, but we definitely want one for the office. Oh, okay. Well, thanks for explaining that to me. Oh, and what would you like me to do with the in-house copy? Oh, well, it's because the boss knew that the storage room was full. Well, it's fine. Just put it anywhere. I'm sorry. Anywhere? Yeah. Well, actually, just go ahead and do the digital copies for now, and then we'll worry about the print copies later. And so, by just mirroring back to him, the female employee was able to lead the boss to the conclusion that she wanted, and it was the right conclusion. It's not like she was being cruel or not even really necessarily manipulative. It was just the only way to get him to accept the information. And well, you, in any good business, you're going to have a lot of really aggressive type A personalities in the leadership roles, and they're not going to easily just accept other people's ideas. So using the mirroring technique can get you there. Now, the other bonus of mirroring a lot is you want to keep the other side talking, because you never know when you're going to find a black swan. And if you can uncover some piece of information that you didn't know the other side had and was very important to your ability to negotiate, then you really, really, really can have some leverage over that. Now, the leverage is not necessarily always a negative thing, but in negotiation, it is extremely vital to, getting every little bit that you can out of your side. Now, not that you want to approach every relationship, especially with customers, as extremely predatory, but you do want to give your side every bit of a chance to, how should we put it? Give your side every bit, as much of a chance as possible to get what's coming, because that's just fair. As long as the relationship is still mutual, and it leads to an outcome where the customer grows and the company providing the service is growing as well, then it's all going to work out very well in the end. So what kind of black swans could we come up with? Well, sometimes when we're negotiating, we find out that, for instance, there was a story that Chris Voss related, and I believe it was they were trying to get a contract with Coca-Cola, and one great technique to that almost never fails to reinitiate contact with someone you've been negotiating with for a long time, and things have kind of started to fall through. You send them a one sentence email, and you send them the one sentence is, "Have you given up on pursuing this goal with us?" And of course, the answer is no, because if the goal is achieved, then both sides are going to benefit. But there was a problem, so that email got sent, and the Coca-Cola rep never replied. There was only one answer to that, and that answer was that the Coca-Cola rep was probably in a really bad spot on his side of the table. And sure enough, what the person desiring the contract with Coca-Cola had to do was get in and get some FaceTime with that rep, so that the rep would go, okay, let me get you to someone who can actually help you out, because that guy, well, he was on his way out and didn't have any ability anymore with Coke to be able to negotiate any more deals. And of course, when you're in that position, then you're all bitter and resentful, and you don't care so much about what might be best for the company, because, well, at that point, you don't consider yourself part of the company anymore. So you got to watch out for black swans like that, because you never know when you could slam your ability to negotiate and persuade right up against a brick wall, and if you don't have someone to talk to, then you can't negotiate. So you mirror to get as much information as you can. Then you see what kind of black swans may reveal themselves. And then when you have the black swan, you actually know something that is going to give your side a huge advantage when it comes to getting down to numbers. So I just wanted to vocalize that, share it with you, and try to sort it out in my mind as well. Can't wait to practice it. Take care.